Linda, our next speaker. Linda lives, eats, and breathes health. She is truly a health enthusiast with an appetite for healthy living. She's a graduate of the University of Ottawa, holding a science degree in kinesiology and a master's in child and development studies. She has over 15 years of experience teaching all age groups from primary to university level. She's also a personal trainer specialist with the Canadian Fitness Professionals, a registered holistic nutritionist with the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, a sport holistic nutritionist for the Sport Études program at l'École secondaire Louis Riel and l'École secondaire Houle-Robert in Ottawa, a regular wellness columnist for the Ottawa MS Chapter newsletter, a recipe designer for an online newsletter called Be Healthy, Be Beautiful Ottawa, a monthly columnist, Ma Boîte à Lunch Santé, for a local primary school at École Étoile de l'Est, and a chair fitness instructor for a courageous group that have multiple sclerosis. One unique thing about Linda is she has MS. She was diagnosed 11 years ago, and she will take you through her journey and enlighten you about superfoods, exercise, and about her love of life with living with MS.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to be here to speak and to share my journey with you and to share my passion, which is healthy eating. Now, this is a quick outline of my presentation today. I will just briefly describe my wellness journey, followed by a little bit of information on inflammation, because as most of you know already, based on what Dr. McLean said, those of us who have MS, we do have chronic inflammation, so that's something that's really important. Leading from that, then, what are the foods that are actually good for us and what are the foods that are not good for us? So I'll try to give you some information on that, as well as share 5 of my everyday superfoods that I feel that maybe you should include in your diet, as well as my recipe for wellness, and I'd like to just conclude with some information on my Wednesday fitness class. This is just an introduction to my 2 daughters. I'm a mother of 2. I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, and that's my loving husband. In Eastern Ontario, approximately 2,140 people are actually diagnosed with MS, and I am one of those people. And I'm not on medication either. 12 years ago, in February, I woke up one morning feeling that something was actually wrong with my face. I knew something was just not right. I couldn't smile the same way. So I'd asked my husband, I asked my girlfriends. I remember going to a baby's group. I had my 1-year-old, or 6 months at the time. And I kept asking them, do I sound differently? I felt like I was rolling my R's, or I just felt different. But they kept telling me, no, you're fine. And my husband's like, no, you're a hypochondriac. I'm sure that you'll be fine. So a couple days later, woke up one morning. He was gone to work, and I was at home at the time. So I rushed to go get my daughter in the morning. And as I reached down to grab her and said, "Allô, Mathieu," the words didn't come out. My face was paralyzed on the right side. I was convinced I had had a stroke in the evening. I didn't know what was going on. So I called my general practitioner, and she was really kind to actually bring me in, and she did a couple of evaluations, and luckily she had her neurologist friend was working on staff at the University of Western Ontario. That's where we were in London. And so they rushed me there, and test after test. So basically I was in at 11 a.m. By 11 p.m., after all these tests, he or she walks in, and that's when I was told that I had MS. At the time, I still vividly remember her telling me that, and then going on and on and on and on and explaining different things, but I didn't understand anything that she was saying. The only thing I remembered was actually the picture of a lady, seeing a picture of a lady in a wheelchair. Because when I was in grade 3, I vividly remember that, I'm not sure you guys participated in that, but there was a readathon programs that were in our schools. And I remember just loving that, because I would read a lot of books, and I'd write, and I'd collect some money for those who had MS. I had no idea what was MS. Now I was being told that I had MS. So it was like, oh my God, now what do I do? My world, as you can see, and as you can probably relate, was torn apart, didn't know what to do. I went home. Obviously, that weekend was very difficult for my husband and I. And we, searched the internet for solutions when we didn't find any solutions. We were more painted a very horrible picture on the internet when you don't know what resources to look for. So anyway, it was a very difficult weekend. But at that time of my diagnosis, I was actually training for my first marathon with the running room in London, Ontario. I was so excited about my training, but now this, I had MS. Should I continue to run, or should I stop? I struggled with this a lot because on one hand, I trained for 2 months, and I had actually completed my first 19 kilometers, which was a lot because previous to that, I'd only run 10 kilometers, so I was all excited and happy for myself. But then on the other hand, research was indicating that we shouldn't do strenuous exercise because it's not good. Maybe your body will overheat. And I was afraid at the time, not knowing very much about MS, thinking, oh my God, am I going to make myself worse? I didn't know what to do. So then the thought of my hero, Terry Fox, entered my mind. I remember thinking, he never quit. Despite his cancer, he ran a marathon a day through Canada's Atlantic provinces, Quebec and Ontario for 143 days. A little voice inside me told me that I couldn't stop either. Sure, I could have chosen to remain a victim of the illness, but I chose to do whatever it takes to overcome it. So completing my first marathon in May on Mother's Day was a life-changing event for me. It gave me the strength that I needed to prove to myself that I can get through this, that my body can do this. Did I continue to run? Of course I did. Running has actually helped me tremendously throughout the years. The road has become my therapy. It's been my way of dealing with MS. It's helped me to stay positive, and it gives me hope. Perhaps a part of me is also a bit afraid that if I stop running, that maybe I won't be able to continue to run. Some people say that running is exhausting, but for me, running is energizing. It gives me life, and it gives me hope that I will get through this one step at a time. Since my diagnosis, I've completed 12 marathons. Thank you. All my races have been just wonderful, but the highlights for me have been actually qualifying for the Boston Marathon in Mississauga and actually crossing the finish line in Boston in April 2005. What a feeling. Some finish lines definitely mean more than others, and that's actually true. It was quite an event, and I was there with my husband and my 2 daughters, as you can see by that picture. What I thought would be a once-in-a-lifetime marathon back in London in 2001 has turned into a lifestyle for me. The other marathon that is another highlight for me, well, they're all highlights, but I can't go on and on and on and explain all the 12 of them, but this one is because it was my 10th marathon. Not only was it special to me because I was celebrating completing my 10th marathon, but also because I was celebrating my 10th year of being diagnosed with an MS and actually still being able to complete a marathon. Every Success Marathon is a confirmation to me that I have control of my illness and that there is hope to end MS. If we don't give ourselves possibilities, we don't give ourselves hope. During my journey, not only have I been exercising quite a bit, and that's been a major role in my life, but I've also discovered the powers of eating alive, natural, and good quality foods. How to eat better to perform better, how to eat better to reduce or to recover better, how to eat better to reduce inflammation. And most of all, I discovered how to love the food that loves me back. So just to give you a little review on inflammation. Inflammation, when most of us think of inflammation, an image of a swollen joint, such as what you see there, of a sprained ankle is, that's what we think of as inflammation. That our body, it's our natural response for our body when something like that happens. So of course, inflammation is good. But on the other hand, if, let's say, we have constant inflammation, then we may have different symptoms that occur. And we may not actually notice these symptoms, but they are actually causes of inflammation within ourselves. For instance, you may be suffering indigestion, bleeding gums, patch of eczema, numbness and tingling, muscle fatigue, and even if we think of what Dr. McLean was saying in terms of ourselves who are suffering with MS, if you look at the brain and the nervous system, when they're under attack, there's actually a lot of inflammation that's going on. So we're constantly suffering inflammation. Now, did you know that more than 70% of our immune system cells are found along the lining of our digestive tract? And a huge way to affect the immune response is to actually change which foods interact with our gut. There are certain foods that can put out the fire of inflammation, while other foods can actually promote it. Now, the foods here that are listed are the red light foods that I kind of wrote. These are foods that have been found in the literature to be harmful or that actually could trigger inflammation. But one thing that I want to actually emphasize as well is that we're all individually chemically different, biochemically different, in the sense that if one food is not good for one person, it doesn't mean that your neighbor, that food is good for them. So, I mean, you need to actually listen to your body to make sure that you actually know if you're reacting to a particular food or not. So this is just kind of a list that's provided that you could actually verify. So the foods to avoid that actually have been found in the literature, and actually I offer consultations, and these are things that are shared with me, with my clients as well, is that the first one being harmful fats. And now what I mean about harmful fats is anything like trans fats that you'll find in fast food restaurants, hydrogenated oils like you'll find in your margarines, processed foods, all those types of hidden fats, harmful fats are not good for you and may provoke inflammation in the body. Another one are nightshade vegetables. Yes, vegetables are very good for us. They're very high in antioxidants, high in vitamins, high in minerals. But these types of vegetables have been found to they may actually provoke or cause some pain or worsen some inflammation because they contain a chemical called solanine. And what these nightshade vegetables are, you'll find tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, eggplants, and goji berries fall under that category as well because they contain that chemical. But it's up to you to actually test those out, okay? So when I say peppers, it could be sweet peppers or the hot peppers as well, okay? It may not be all that category, all of these types of foods, and maybe, like I said, maybe one person is intolerant and sensitive to one type of vegetable and the other person the other one. Another one are dairy products, because that creates a very acidic environment, again, provoking inflammation, red meats, and artificial sweeteners. Okay? All the little sweeteners, like all the little things that you can add to your coffee, I would prefer that you take the white sugar and not those, because those are actually very toxic. They're actually neurotoxins. So you shouldn't actually be ingesting anything that has aspartame or any type of little sweeteners. They're really, really not good. Our body actually believes, we're tricking our body to say that it's not any sugar, and that's why we're not creating an insulin response, but it is actually creating, our body's actually seeing that sugar as being 200 times sweeter than it actually is. And it creates problems. And now the other culprit in my list of foods to avoid. Your question? Do you want to keep the question till later?
Well, no, I think it's very vital at this point.
Okay.
You're talking inflammation
Yep.
of our intestinal tract.
Yep.
How do I know I've got an inflammation in my intestinal tract?
What do you mean? This is not just intestinal tract.
No, I
But
know,
it
but
creates
we're
inflammation
talking
on
of
your
diet
body.
right now, and if these foods are affecting me, how do I know they're affecting me?
How you could know would be based on how your reactions, for instance, if you have certain attacks or certain feelings, numbness, tingling, blurred vision, all those are responses that your individual body will respond to it differently. Like, for instance, myself, if I ingest certain foods, then I know right away, eventually, I won't feel good the next morning, I'll feel more fatigue, I will have numbness in my legs. So those are some of them.
Okay.
That's why I say you need to listen to your body. Okay?
They're outward symptoms.
Yes. Okay. Now, my other culprit to add to this foods to avoid are refined white sugar. Now, did you know that there's 10 teaspoons of sugar in a can of Coke? Okay, that's a lot of sugar at one time. Actually, the average person as well, and this is stated in the literature, actually consumes over 180 pounds of sugar, white sugar. Now that's a lot of sugar. I'm 130 pounds, so that's me and a half of a person of sugar a year. You think, oh, well, I don't eat a lot of sugar, but you know what? Sugar is hidden in everything. If you think in your crackers, if you read on the ingredients, in the ingredient list, if sugar is listed amongst the first 5 ingredients, there's too much sugar, okay? There's sugar in everything, and you need to really be aware of that, okay? And when I say white sugar, I mean also your white rice, your white flours, so your white bread, your white pasta, anything white is considered sugar. And now if you look at the picture that I have up top, now I often refer to white sugar when we actually consume it as a bank robber. Okay, so when you insert white sugar in your body, you have to cough up the funds in your account, such as B vitamins and chromium, to complete the transaction. Okay, so that means metabolize it. Over time, the repeated consumption of white sugar depletes your account of nutrients. If you fail to continually top up your vitamins and mineral reserves, you may end up with an overdrawn account. As a result, you will lack the necessary nutrients for keeping inflammation in check. So what is a superfood? So those were foods to avoid, but now I'm going to talk about foods that you should actually possibly include, okay? Now I refer to them as superfoods. So superfood can be defined as many foods that are incredibly high concentration of phytonutrients, which are antioxidants. They may include vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and phytochemicals. Now, my first everyday superfood that I feel that we should all eat, and this is one that I notice that amongst all my clients and even kids as a teacher looking through their lunch boxes, I don't see any greens. I hardly see any greens, but these are so good for us. And when I say greens, I'm thinking romaine lettuce. I'm going to list them all. I'm not going to name them all. So those are all, anything that's dark green, those are really good for us, okay? So leafy greens are like free food. We can eat as much as we want, and the more we consume, the better. Now, why are they important? They're important because, of course, they fight inflammation. They help to purify the blood and clean us of toxins. They're an immune booster. They help to normalize blood pressure. They clean the intestines, and they rejuvenate the body. And who doesn't want to feel young? Now, a few tips for eating greens. Maybe you can use greens as a base with your chicken or with your fish instead of always using grains and pasta. You can eat a salad every meal. You can maybe mix a handful in your smoothie. I do that with my girls. I'll take some spinach and put it in their smoothie with their fruit and a little bit of protein and let's say their milk, and they don't see it if you bloom a lot, like for a long time. You have to do it a long time because there's chunks, and if there's chunks, they won't eat it. So that's just one way that you can actually incorporate some vegetables. You can chop and add soups near the end of cooking, so I always suggest to add the greens at the end of cooking, so then they will, and it won't be too good. So I would prefer that. And then you could also enjoy them, well, I said that, with the burger or chicken and fish. Now my second one is ginger. Ginger is an extraordinary anti-inflammatory type of food that you can include and eat on a daily basis. It also helps to prevent nausea because of the compound gingerols that are in it. And if you think of, when you're sick, remember when we were young? I remember being young and let's say I felt nauseous, they'd give us a ginger ale. Not thinking that there's 10 teaspoons of sugar in the ginger ale. That actually sugar, not only is it not, there's like tons of reasons why we shouldn't eat sugar, but sugar is actually very detrimental to our immune system. If you eat too much sugar, this is how I explain it to the kids. It's almost, I refer to the inside of our immune system as being our little army. Yes, our armies are maybe a little bit overproductive. They're working very much. But like for little kids, for instance, sugar actually decreases your immune system. Okay? So then that's when I just laugh in terms of the nausea. So it's helpful to boost your immune system during the flu. season, and they're also high in potassium, which is great for heart health. Some tips to include ginger. You can add it to your stir fry, soups or casserole. Really gives a really good taste. It's great to have a ginger tea, and I always include a little bit of lemon with it, which helps with the absorption. This is good for digestion as well. So this is really good. And if you don't like ginger, you can actually purchase ginger in capsule form. Now, cruciferous vegetables are my third everyday superfood that you should eat on a regular basis because they contain sulfur that the body needs to make its own power antioxidants. They're very high in indole-3 carbinol, which helps lower circulating estrogen levels. Okay, so women, menopausal time, this is very good as well. Stimulates the body's detox mechanism. And the vegetables included in this category include broccoli, your cauliflower, your Brussels sprouts, your collard greens, cabbage, turnip, kale, bok chow. So there's a whole wide variety of them. And don't always eat the same vegetable. Try to, if you only eat broccoli, we'll try to maybe vary a little bit because then you're getting a wide range of them. Now, tips in eating: make pureed soup with them. That's a good one. Or add them to existing soup recipes. You can steam your veggies and add olive oil after they're cooked with a little bit of garlic to season. Or you can actually make a platter. This is an easy one. And dip them with hummus. Now, my fourth is seed and seed oils. Now, what I mean about this is I've included both because they're so beneficial. So when I think of flax seeds, hemp seeds, or pumpkin seeds, or sesame seeds, or the oils that are derived from the seeds. Now, they're very high in anti-inflammatory properties, and they're natural. They enhance your immune system. The flax and the pumpkin are very high in omega-3. And your hemp oil, actually, this is a very good oil. I don't know if any of you have ever tried this type of oil, but it's green in color, but it's very high in both omega-3 and omega-6 at a good ratio, so it's very good for you. Now, how to include? You can sprinkle them on salads. You can mix them in nuts with some dried fruit for a trail mix, or you can add, once again, some oils. This is what I do with my smoothie. Not only do I add my spinach, but I'll add a teaspoon of flaxseed oil in the smoothie itself. So they're getting their carbs, they're getting their protein, and they're getting their healthy fats when they have their smoothie. So it's good to always eat a balanced meal. And the last superfood is turmeric. Turmeric contains powerful natural inflammatory compounds. Okay, without any toxic effects. And their beneficial effects are due to the, I can't pronounce this word, curcuminoids. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But it's the curcumin, it was easier to say, and it's the color. Okay, and that's why it's very dark yellow. But just to be careful if you're cooking with it or if you're using it because it stains very easily. So just to be aware of that. And this is actually a spice that is adored in India for its purifying properties. And how you can add turmeric: you can eat more curry sauces because they contain turmeric. You can sprinkle on cauliflower once you've steamed them. You can maybe sprinkle a little bit of turmeric on scrambled eggs and veggie omelets. Curcumin is also available in supplement form, or you can actually have a turmeric tea. Now, in terms of, for instance, for me, when people come to see me in terms of consultations, nutritional consultations, I always refer them to look at their diet first, food first. That's the first suggestion that I would recommend. But there are circumstances that there are times when their health is being compromised. So those are the moments where I will suggest some supplements. And as for those of us with MS, these are my top 4 supplements that I feel that, these are very beneficial for us. 1, omega-3 essential fats, or your fish oils. I think those are really good because they really help to reduce inflammation. Again, we're always related to inflammation, so anything we can do to reduce inflammation is very beneficial for us, okay? So the recommended dosage is between 1 to 2 grams combined of EPA and DHA, and those are the forms of omega-3. The second supplement that I recommend is a good quality multivitamin and mineral formula. Know your Centrum 1 a day is not necessarily your bestest choice. You want something a little bit more high quality than that. The third one is probiotics. Probiotics are very good for digestive health. And the fourth one being your vitamin D. And again, the dosage there, recommended dosage is 1,000 to 4,000 IU. So I always take a little bit more during the winter months because of the sun, and a little bit less in the summer. Now, my recipe for wellness, by focusing on being healthy, I found over the years has actually, I don't think of being sick, and that's a bit. If we go back to what you were saying in terms of, yes, oh no, I have MS. Well, I don't even think I have MS. I always think of, my goal is always to be healthy, and what can I do to actually be the healthiest person that I can? So my recipe is I always start my morning with a green smoothie. We just saw what the benefits are all about the greens, so as many greens as I can include in my diet, I try. And I always start off with my morning with a green smoothie. And I think that's beneficial because greens, we always have a tendency to think that we can only include the greens in, let's say, your lunch, or I see people eating dinner with their greens. But it's actually beneficial as well to start the morning with some greens because it's very, very alkalizing. Of course, exercise is part of my wellness recipe. Daily meditation. I actually get my daily meditation through running. That's my dosage of meditation, because when I go out and run for 2 hours at a time, I'm able to clear my mind. I'm able to really think and process things that are either bothering me or whatnot. So I think that's really good. But I also do some weekly meditations at home, breathing exercises, and I think that's very beneficial for us. I also believe truly in eating natural and wholesome foods, such as the foods that I described, because they have all the enzymes and the nutrients that we need. So if you think of maybe if you're eating 85% of the time, your food is natural meaning, okay, it hasn't been hampered, it hasn't been altered, there's no pesticides, there's no nothing, it's just natural. Then 15% of the time, then you can have your little cheat foods or things like that, okay? Positive thoughts is something that's also a recipe for wellness. And I try to appreciate life as much as I can, and I try to live with the moment. Now this is just a little recipe for my green smoothie, just to give you an idea. So I'll mix an apple, a pear, an avocado, a bunch of kale. You can put spinach if you like as well, because kale is very high in calcium. That's why I try to consume it quite a bit. A cup of almond milk, a little bit of water, and I often use coconut water because I run, so for my electrolytes. And 3 tablespoons of deer ginger. So again, I'm mixing a whole bunch of those superfoods right there, and that's my morning little smoothie. It's not my breakfast though. I'll have a breakfast in addition to this afterwards. So, my Wednesday fitness class. I wanted to give back to those that are less fortunate than I am in terms of my disease. And this was 2 years ago. When I first was diagnosed with MS, I found it very difficult. And I didn't share the fact that I had MS with very many people, and I still don't. Well, I'm a lot more open now, but at the time I didn't, and I didn't get involved with any of the associations back in London. But when we moved here 5 years ago, I wanted to give back. I wanted to get involved, and I wanted to meet individuals that were going through the same thing as I was. So with this thought in mind, I went to the MS Society, and I met with the volunteer coordinator, and I told her, I shared with her my passion for exercise and for wellness and for fitness. And at that particular time, she told me that, it just so happened that the fitness teacher for the MS class was not available anymore. So it was almost like, I think that was for me. Things happen for a reason, right? So I've actually have been with this class now for 2 years. We meet on a regular basis, like on a weekly basis. And at first, initially, I was afraid of how I would actually react to this, because I thought that, okay, am I facing my possible future? And I thought that I'd be fearful with that, or I would actually not want to go back to that. But on the contrary, I think that it's made me a stronger person. I just love my group, and I see the disease, I see MS very differently, having now been involved with it. So I think for me, it makes me appreciate life a lot more. It makes me want to live one day at a time, and I'm very thankful that I've learned those lessons through my class. So there's two actually inspiring thoughts when I think of my classes. One is the determination of my participants who come to class on a weekly basis. They come, they're determined to work, they're happy to do their exercise despite their limitations. And I have a whole whack in terms of the limitations of different mobility challenges. And they're still there, they're strong, they're willing to work, and that for me is a big wow. The second is that the group is always very positive. Not once have I heard anyone complain that they have MS. Not once have I heard that they're in pain somewhere. They're just very positive. They're always smiling and they're always happy to see each other. So for me, again, that is such another big wow. And I'm very thankful to be part of that. And I always think that, I may have run 12 marathons over the years, but actually it's these people, my class participants, that they run their own marathon every Wednesday during exercise class. They're truly the heroes that the MS Society supports, and I'm very proud to be part of that class. Now this mountain, for me, is a picture that, and you see the phrase up top, it says, it's not about what's on the other side of the mountain, it's about the climb. And it's by Miley Cyrus, and I don't know if any of you have little kids or that they Hannah Montana. Well, she wrote this song, and I just love this song, and every time I hear this song, I just bawl my eyes out. It just, for me, it's like, wow, it's true. Why should we focus on what's in the future and what maybe my disease may be progressing, or what's up there? I'm not. I'm focusing on today. So that's what this song actually shows, is that you need to focus on what's today, and it's the climb that's more important, and not necessarily what's on the other side of the mountain. So I don't know if I can play this song. Maybe just a little bit. So it's a very nice song. Oops, thank you for letting me share that with you. I'm pretty much done here. Before I close, this is just to let you know that I do offer different lectures throughout the city. One lecture that's coming up is on MS. It's Tired of Being Tired, and it will be on December 5th. And again, through that, I'm going to provide some information in terms of what types of foods you could include in your diet to help you. If you want more information on the workshop itself, if you go to my website, there's a description of that workshop as well. There's also, I encourage you to go into my articles section. In my articles, I publish articles for 3 different newsletters, e-newsletters. One, Be Beautiful, Be Healthy, Ottawa, and I always provide a recipe, so there's really good recipes there if you want to try them out. I also offer nutritional, healthy lunchbox ideas with my daughter's school newsletter, so you're more than welcome to read those. And I offer, and maybe you've already seen some of the articles that I've written for the MS Society's newsletter as well.
What's your site?
Sorry? It's eatwellwithlinda.com. Okay. Or gainmageaveclinda.com. So it's in French and English. So I'd like to leave you with this thought. We are indeed much more than what we eat, but what we eat can nevertheless help us to be much more than who we are. Thank you very much for listening to me.